I think the days when hackers would go directly into systems are largely gone. There are people using AI to get the multi-factor codes. It's really scary what's going on.
Here is the sweet spot, the kicker, the game changer for accountants.
Invest your money, time and effort and expertise there. Don't try and build something that's going to be almost irrelevant.
Socket has partnered with Adfin to tackle one of accounting's biggest pain points.
You can now plug Fathom into Sage 50.
Now with a few clicks, you can connect your Pennylane account to Joiin.
Ignition and Karbon announced an update to their integration.
Campfire just raised $35 million.
I will tell you that having been to LA last year, LA is worse scarier than Mexico City.
I think after this year, I'm definitely sure of right.
So what would you advise then accountants do to keep their data safe?
Ultimately, you just have to accept you are going to get hacked. So a lot of the thinking is how do we minimize the impact?
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Digi-Tools and Accrual World podcast. I'm delighted to say that we're back for another episode, and this time it's just Indy and I because Ryan's unavailable unfortunately. But then, as has been the case over the last few weeks, I missed the last recording, so it was Indy and Ryan in the last one. So eventually we'll get the gang back together and we'll start recording as a threesome. But we'll get there eventually. But just a reminder, of course, that all of our episodes go out weekly on a Monday, so you can catch up on your usual players and stuff. Plus, we've got the live stream that goes out on a Thursday, which covers some of our news in depth, and we've got the newsletter as well. So if you want to get involved in that, you want to make sure you're keeping up to date with all the latest news and updates. Subscribe on our website. You can do that, and we'll get into it. Anyway, let's hand over to Indy and let's catch up with her. Who's your new bear friend, Indy?
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh, sorry. Were we not supposed to put that out on the cameras?
God, I didn't know the camera was going to come me. Oh god, that went viral, didn't it? The my bear friend. I've watched too many spoofs of the astronomer, CEO, and head of HR, Haps, and it's just my heart goes out to the families that are affected in the midst of all that. But I do love a good spoof. So, I think it's super sad that they really have used that as a probably some sort of distraction from what's really happening at the astronomer, which is another one of these AI darlings. But I actually think that the trouble has been at the company level, and not like the scandal that was actually reported between the CEO and the head of HR, but more what's happening with mass redundancies, and also people really questioning whether there was a good enough product market fit. So it's a shame that the attention was taken away by a scandal and sensationalized. But that to say, it's been mildly entertaining watching and seeing how Chris Martin slowly and Coldplay ruins relationships. So
there you go. That's just a note for myself next time Ryan and I go to a concert together.
No spooning. What was worse was the person stood next to them who clearly knew something was happening and was wrong, and she's there in some awkward oh my god, now they've finally been caught and I've got this embarrassing look on my face. I was like, god, try and be subtle as a brick, wasn't it, coming through the window? How to avoid looking like you are complicit in a scandal.
Indeed. It was the bizarrest thing ever. And we were just talking about this before we started recording in terms of, I'm pretty sure there are better ways to sort of pull this off in terms of, you could have just sort of pretended that you were sort of just getting into the groove of the music and sort of just waved to the cameras, and no one would have given it a second thought. But no, that's not how it kind of played out. So yeah, happy days. It's all good.
How are you, John, on that merry note? You've just come back from the States?
Mexico.
Yeah. South of the border. How was it?
It was really good. I was in Mexico City for HLB International Conference, and also had a little bit of time to work out there before the conference started and do a little bit of sightseeing as well. Really enjoyed it. I didn't really know what to expect from Mexico City. You hear lots of horror stories about Mexico in terms of it being quite sort of dangerous and scary. But I will tell you that having been to LA last year, LA is way scarier than Mexico City. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and incredibly like culturally diverse and stuff. Absolutely amazing. I was given this stat, which apparently Mexico City has the most number of museums in any city in the world apart from Paris. So it's like number 2
Wow.
on the list. Yeah.
Oh,
And
you loved that, didn't you, you polymath? You loved these facts. You soaked them up.
I loved it. I mean, I went to there was an anthropology museum, which I went to on the weekend, on the first weekend that I was there, and I spent like 3 hours wandering around it and sort of absorbing the information and stuff, and it was mind blowing because I guess my sort of knowledge or my background in terms of history of like Mexico is pretty poor, which I suppose is probably the same for quite a lot of people. And I guess you just kind of associate Mexico with the Aztecs and things like that. And yeah, absolutely amazing in terms of learning how like the whole country became was populated originally, and then how multiple like diverse like ethnic groups from different areas came together, and the different struggles, the power struggles and the coming and going of civilizations within Mexico. And so yeah, it was absolutely amazing, and just some incredible like artifacts from the last sort of 2,000 plus years of Mexican history from everything that that they found. So yeah, very, very impressive. And as you can imagine, the food was great, and I did sample a little bit of tequila, even though it's not really my thing, and the beer was
Ooh, what
great
about
as well.
Ricea? Ricea is the one that I tried, really strong. I mean, the
Oh.
tequila is nice, but the Ricea is like lethal.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I didn't try that. I did have some mezcal as well, because obviously that's
Really?
the other big thing that you get out of there. It's yeah, no, it was good. It was good. We actually have a client within the HLB network that's created a brand new tequila brand. So it's an American guy that's got into business with a Mexican guy, and the Mexican guy who's involved, his great grandfather founded one of the original tequila brands in Mexico about sort of 150 years or so ago, really well known. So they've created this brand new tequila with this incredible like experience that's over on the west coast of Mexico, which when you see the pictures and see what they do is just mind blowing. So absolutely brilliant. So yeah,
That's
unfortunately I
nice.
didn't get to go and do the experience bit, but I did get to taste that tequila, so that was good.
I was in the west coast of Mexico a couple of years back. That was nice.
Mm,
Jalisco State.
nice. Yeah.
Much more local in terms of the people that I met, and I remember a lot of them saying, "Oh, why are you here? How are you here? What do you do? Why have you ended up here?" And I think it's just because where I went, there was maybe more people come from the States
Hmm.
that way, because I had flown from the States down. And by that point, I'd taken that mammoth holiday, which I think after this year, I'm definitely due a break. So, although I can't necessarily take another 3-4 weeks touring, I might get a couple of weeks. But yeah, Mexico would be lovely to go back to.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well,
I'm
I
envious.
definitely feel like I could definitely go back and definitely explore more of the country, because there were tons of bits. I mean, I only really stayed in Mexico City and did a few day tours. So there's lots of country to explore there, that's for sure. And yeah, I was a little bit
What was
jealous of
the
this.
MO for the HLB conference?
It's really about bringing together people from across the globe to kind of discuss, what the latest trends are, what the biggest challenges are, but also how we can work more collaboratively within the network. And of course, the inevitable AI conversation was kind of baked into quite a few things along the way. But what was really nice to see and hear was that conversation was very practical rather than being sort of very theoretical. So that was really good. And we had some really good like inspirational talks from they're really good at getting sort of outside people to come in and talk about, not just talk about accounting industry, but where's the world heading in terms of, whether it's an economic environment or whether it's a technological environment or the people environment, and try and encourage us again to think a bit more globally sometimes, which is very nice.
For sure, considering that, yeah, we are living more, working more globally anyway.
Yep.
But shall we, on that note, head over to App News?
Why not? Let's do it.
Okay. Great. Well, in today's exciting update, Socket has partnered with Adfin to tackle one of the accounting's biggest pain points, which is getting paid on time. So, while reducing the overall dreaded admin workload, and who better to lead the charge than our one and only wonderful, most comical, irreverent Johnny Gaunt, co founder of Socket and long-time accounting industry veteran, known for his wit and humour. His LinkedIn posts are as sharp as they are hilarious. Johnny and his team have now integrated Adfin's payments platform to create a seamless, unified solution. So now practices can send proposals, capture direct debit mandates, issue invoices, and even automate payment retries and reconciliation, all within Socket's platform. So there's no more jumping between tools and dealing with broken payment workflows. With the integration, you're just a few clicks away from a smooth proposal to payment experience, which is one thing that Johnny had always promised, was having something that was a software that really delivered higher on the user experience. So the integration supports multiple payment options, including cards, bank transfers, and direct debits, making it easier for clients to pay and for you to get paid faster. The other thing, or the best part, should I say, is existing clients can transition seamlessly without any disruption. And as Johnny Gaunt and his not so serious LinkedIn post will tell you, this partnership isn't just about functionality, it's about making the lives of accounting professionals easier. We've seen an immediate impact with the integration. Clients get a better experience and we're able to automate it even more. It just works like clockwork, in the words of Johnny Gaunt. So we can't really argue with that. So if you're ready and you want to ditch some of the admin, get paid quicker, and you can keep an eye on the full launch, which went out last week. And we will catch up with Johnny Gaunt at some point, I am sure. And hopefully, if you've tried it and you are a fan of Socket, then tell us how you're getting on.
Absolutely. I feel like this is a a partnership that was built on the ski trip, on the Finance Takes the Piste ski trip, because both some of the Adfin team and Johnny were on that trip. And I know they've been talking previous to that, but probably helped to cement that relationship a little bit more. And yeah, I mean, what I'm really fascinated about with this Adfin integration is, I wonder whether they've built it using their pre-existing APIs that they have between the two products, or whether they've actually moved towards using the MCP that Adfin have built. So, to some people who may not be aware that, they've created this model context protocol in the background that sits over the top of Adfin and allows you to use a large language model to connect to that and to do a whole bunch of automations. And we as a firm have been speaking to them about using that to integrate with our practice management system. And it was proving to be more effective and quicker to develop than it was to go down the API route and things, and would have been much more cost effective. So yeah, I mean, this is a great integration. It's a great opportunity, and coupled with a whole bunch of other things that Johnny's been promoting out of Socket, things like the ability to recharge software costs and deal with the uplifts really effectively. I mean, that's a continuous problem and challenge for accounting firms to manage effectively. And obviously, that just general proposal management side of things, which it's becoming increasingly competitive, isn't it, I guess? And I think we'll touch on some more integrations in the future on that too. So very exciting times. Moving on, so we got a quick release from Fathom, and this has been a long awaited release, I think, for a lot of accounting firms. I know I've spoken to a few of the guys at Fathom about this in terms of when we're going to expect this, and this is the fact that they now have a Sage 50 accounts integration live, so that you can now plug Fathom into Sage 50, which is a bit of a breakthrough, I think, for probably a lot of firms, particularly if you are already with Fathom, because I know this has been a highly requested feature. It's probably been a little bit challenging for them to build, and I guess really there's only been one or two others in the market that have managed to create this this reporting integration with Sage in the past. So a little bit more competition in the market again, but equally now, if you're a Fathom user, allows you to spread your wings a little bit. And an additional thing that you can also do, which they've released at the same time, is they've added the ability to change the dashboard view. So when you're looking at your list of clients, which effectively is designed to kind of like lift up kind of key bits of information about your clients, so you can be maybe a little bit more proactive. So it might flag up for your cash flow problem, for example, or maybe a debtors issue around collections, or it might just show you profitability, or it might or revenue figures. You can tweak that a little bit, and you can add a whole bunch of different metrics, filters, and sorting options to that, so you can really drill down into your client base, like I say, and you slice and dice that information in a way that suits you, but also allows you to potentially be more proactive. So two great little updates there, and I think the Sage 51 in particular will be like a really big thing for a lot of people, because that allows you to suddenly cover another major accounting product that's used here in the UK.
Moving on from that, if you are an accountant or part of a finance team, and actually most of you who listen to this podcast are, but if you manage multiple entities, you're going to love the latest collaboration between Joiin and Pennylane. The integration solves the age-old headache of consolidating data without the need for spreadsheets, exports, or manual work. Now, with a few clicks, you can connect your Pennylane accounts to Joiin and start generating real-time, fully consolidated reports. Pennylane, for those of you who don't know, is if you aren't using it or you haven't come across it, is a big European accounting software company. So whether you're handling client accounts or internal entities, the integration is there to give the power to consolidate P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow reports automatically. So there's no manual exports needed. And if you're working with intercompany eliminations or multi-currency entities, then it's streamlined to give you custom layouts and automated scheduling for reports. Pennylane, I really kept abreast of their traction over the last 3 to 4 years now, and they've got 4,500 accounting firms and over 450,000 companies. So they have been a bit of a powerhouse in terms of backing a bet that I think I had spoken about for the last few years, which was financing and being able to embed lending into one platform. So they speed up the overall payables, receivables flow with working capital. It's more than an accounting tool, and it's evolving into something that's truly an all-in-one financial ecosystem with this type of integration. The reporting capabilities will kind of only serve to amplify the growing influence that they have in the SME space. So if you do work with Pennylane, then this integration is tailor-made for you. So you can emerge gracefully from the spreadsheet chaos and embrace the benefits of consolidated data and insights in multiple entities. So the integration is live now, and it's available for all Joiin users.
People like I do, Pennylane and a few others have got a huge opportunity to just go after that whole European market, because they really don't have any competition. Intuit pulled out a few years ago. There's only really products like Sage, desktop and other things like that are operating in these spaces. And I know, again, that talking to our international colleagues, that quite often if they want to offer things like bookkeeping services or kind of like any kind of CFO type services, is that they're having to do it in products like NetSuite and other things, which are not really that appropriate to deliver those kind of services for SMEs into. So this goes to show that if you've been tracking Pennylane, the future for something like that would seem that it's pretty impressive. Moving on to something slightly different, Ignition and Karbon announced an update to their integration. So they've had an integration for a good few years now. I think back in about 2018 was when it was originally announced. And Ignition have effectively been looking at Karbon's new API, because they've been updating their API and things to make it more effective and more streamlined. And they've completed that integration now and relaunched that integration. So it's much more effective. It's much more seamless. It's quicker to operate, and there's fewer restrictions in terms of calls and stuff. So the biggest thing, I guess, now is you've got a continuous two-way sync, which you didn't always have between the two products. And so that means that you've got that reliability of not having to look for one piece of data in one system and then look for another piece of data in another. You've got that full integration back and forth, which means that you now know that if someone settled something in Ignition, you're going to see it in Practice Engine. Bloody hell! If someone settles something in Ignition, you're going to see it in Karbon, and equally, if something happens in Karbon, you're also going to be able to see that in Ignition. So it does allow you to have teams operating in just one of these products when that's specific to their role without having to them double up between two products. I think it's really interesting as well, just an aside to this, because I know that Karbon announced that they were looking at an onboarding solution and a quoting and prompting system, and they had put that in their roadmap and talked about wanting to go and build this. And at the same time, they've obviously updated this integration with Ignition. So I wonder if now maybe they're going to switch away from doing this, because as you know, India, I've been incredibly critical of like products just leeching into developing what I feel is a bit of a sideshow when it doesn't fit in with their level of expertise. Ignition, like the other players in this market, are real specialists in onboarding and quoting and getting engagement letters out to clients. Karbon are not. And so why waste your time, effort, money, etc., building something when actually fundamentally within Karbon, there's a whole bunch of other things that they could really focus in on the core practice management solution, particularly as they want to kind of scale upwards into the larger segments of the market to challenge the likes of Wolters Kluwer and Thomson Reuters and Iris, etc. Because there's some real fundamental things that they need to do to appeal to larger clients. So invest your money, time, and effort and expertise there. Don't try and build something that's going to be almost irrelevant.
Interesting perspective. It's definitely a good synergy for Karbon, as you say, and if it's an adjacency that they're thinking of going into, do we speculate a little that there might be a good merger that happens down the line between these two?
Well, it could be, yeah. I mean, I guess one of the big things about Ignition is they do have a fairly new CEO, because he came in, I think, was it towards the end of last year, which I think has been really good for freeing up the time of some of the previous sort of founder team and stuff. So that allows them to focus on product a bit more, and it also allows them to probably focus on strategy a bit more. And who knows where Karbon stroke Ignition may go, but that would definitely be a really good tie-up for them, a really good opportunity,
wouldn't it? Yeah, really good fit. And I think that collectively that the sum is greater than the parts in that sense, right? The features that work well together. What did they say about, like, was it couples who train together stay together? These guys are staying together. I'm telling you, there's something there. And if it comes true, heard it here first. So moving on. If you have got landlords in your client list, brace yourselves. Landlord Studio and Habito have just teamed up to make life a whole lot easier for your landlords and for you. So you can say goodbye to the headache of juggling property management software and mortgage hunting. The partnership, another partnership, means that Habito mortgage customers now get free access to Landlord Studio Pro until 2028, giving them a full-on toolkit to tackle property management, rental accounting, and more crucially, MTD and compliance for that. So here is the sweet spot, the kicker, the game changer for accountants when it comes to MTD. Landlord Studio's new tools make digital reporting even easier, and it keeps the landlords in HMRC's good books without breaking a sweat. Plus, with Habito's mortgage platform, landlords can tap into over 20,000 mortgage products, making it easier than ever to refinance or grow their portfolio, all with the Habito-style expert advice along the way that you kind of get from using the online platform. So why should you care if you're helping landlords manage their portfolios? This integration is going to save you some time. It's going to give you everything in one place. There's property management, there's MTD compliance, and there's mortgage access. So it becomes a little bit like a Swiss Army knife for property and for finances, except with all the fiddly bits in the middle. So a win for your clients and a win for you. And back to my rental days, who doesn't love a happy landlord? So that's a new one for you. I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, time for something a little bit different. And legal software company Clio have spent $1 billion on law data giant vLex. So for those of you not particularly familiar with Clio, it's a firm management software specifically for legal practices, allows you to run all of your client files and stuff, and connects into good old things like Xero, QuickBooks, etc. and they've been going for a long old time, actually, surprisingly enough, in the cloud space. A 17-year-old company, so been around for a long old time. And they've basically picked up vLex that do data intelligence and research and things in the background to add to the platform. And I guess it just enhances that kind of data capability for them. The key thing to note is that for anyone really not that familiar with it, you'll be probably much more familiar with LexisNexis, which is owned by Thomson Reuters. And that's effectively where vLex competes. They're trying to offer a similar kind of service to LexisNexis. So yeah, great opportunity here for Clio. And I guess this is maybe one of those things around requiring the data so you can build your AI foundations and do more in your product and your platform. And I can imagine that Clio are going to invest more in that kind of level of functionality and stuff, and utilize the data and the additional information they've got access to enhance the kind of services and to streamline some of the work that they can probably deliver through their own platform and on the management side of things. So yeah, great, exciting times.
I've got another update that was from Campfire. They've just raised $35 million in a Series A round led by Accel, with a mission to modernize the outdated ERP landscape. Founded by a former finance exec, Campfire's AI-first platform is built around 3 key pillars: speeding up the month-end closes, unlocking actionable financial insights, and enabling smarter scaling for growing businesses. The company is also launching Finance Forward, the first AI summit. Or is it an AI, the first AI summit? Because I think that Dan did a really good job of launching his, but they are launching this designed to help finance teams thrive in the AI-driven future. With backers like Accel and customers including Replit and Flex, Campfire is setting itself up to be a game changer for finance and accounting teams. I know we say that so often at the moment, especially with the amount of AI that's coming out. But they've really focused on offering the ERP side of things, and it scales with the business that you have to keep up with the times that are coming. And I guess that because there's so many bets that are being made at the moment, in the end it comes down to whether you believe that this one has got a better starting point coming at it from the ERP data side, as opposed to just being on one part of the accounting software as a feature. So interesting. I think that given that they've raised quite a sizable amount of cash, it'd be really interesting to see how it develops its strategy going forward. And if you haven't already joined the AI Summit, then maybe it's one to look up and see if you want to join.
And final bit of news as well. There is a new Square connector by QuickBooks. So if you're a QuickBooks user and you want to connect to the Square app, which a lot of businesses use, particularly if you're in the e-commerce space or just in the retail space as well, because Square have some great bits of hardware that you can tap into as well. This is the one for you. So just recently announced, this is an enhancement on what was already there. So they did have a connection into Square, but as is always the case, APIs and functionality improve over a period of time. And so this is kind of like a rehash of that original integration to make the functionality a bit more effective, a bit more integrated, a bit quicker as well. So you've got better options. The thing to look out for if you are a QuickBooks user is you will have seen that there's the old QuickBooks app was called Connect to Square, and the new one is called Square Connector by QuickBooks. It pretty much does, it does all of the things that it used to do beforehand, but it now does a few extra things in terms of being able to view all the transaction details within the payout profile, and also then do a little bit more automated matching and stuff. The integration works a bit more frequently as well. So you're getting transactions into QuickBooks within a couple of hours of the transactions going through Square, rather than the bit of delay that you would typically have, because a lot of these apps tend to refresh kind of overnight. So you get a bit of a dump of yesterday's transactions in today's GL. So yeah, great that you can kind of see that almost live performance. And the other thing that you can do as well, if you use it, is you can track product information that you've got in Square against the details you've got in QuickBooks. So that's a nice little sync up, because quite often when you're using one of these EPOS systems, is that ability to track products or stock sometimes isn't always there on the basic integrations, and sometimes you need to end up going through a third party like Link My Books, for example. And whilst that's perfectly fine, it just means that having that direct integration means that it's a little bit smoother and easier for you to track everything in your product and stuff. So that's really great. So yeah, like I say, it's all there, ready to go. You've got a whole bunch of mapping options for different income types, fees, discounts, etc. So if you get really granular in your chart of accounts and you want to kind of drill into information or split that out in a more granular way in your management reporting, you've got the ability to do that as well now. So this is great when you're trying to assess and manage margin in a product-based business or a commerce-based business, because that's the thing that really helps you to nail down what's performing well and what's not performing particularly well. So yeah, great little update for people on QuickBooks and using Square.
So I've got the pleasure of being joined by Ian Gregory, CTO at Advancetrack, and we're going to dive into today a bit about cybersecurity, because I'm finding that there seems to be more and more articles, news about the fact that this is a growing issue. And maybe it's the fact that with AI now that's becoming more sophisticated, but I don't know if this is just my gut feel. So Ian, is this something you're experiencing in, I guess, for your role and also in the accounting profession?
Yeah, I think it's massively growing, and it's always been there. But I think the visibility of it in accounting seems to be growing very much. Certainly in the last year or so, it's been a much bigger topic. Going back, I remember when I first started with Advancetrack, I asked my boss, Paul, what keeps you awake at night? And his answer was a security breach. So over the last 8 years since I've been involved in the company, we spent a lot of time and effort making sure that our systems are secure. And I go to a lot of talks on security and that sort of thing, so I'm up to date. So the same sort of thing all the way through. It gets scarier and scarier. Just to give you an example, I was at a talk a few weeks back, and they were explaining how now there are people using AI to simulate video images of people and their voices to get the multi-factor codes to log on to their emails to hack. It's really scary what's going on. And our mindset, we've in terms of our business, we've followed the ISO approach. So we've got 27001, 27701, 22301, and that's really a case of look at your risks, look at how important they are, and then how do you mitigate those? So we routinely go through our risks and look at what we can do to mitigate. And I think we've got about 180 risks in our register at the moment.
That's a long risk register. So
it's very risk register.
Yeah, and it shows. And I know a lot of firms can do a similar thing, right? Most don't go maybe as far as the ISOs, but they do Cyber Essentials Plus, and they're kind of on that pathway. But I guess something you've raised now is I'm starting to question whether I am with the real Ian Gregory or an AI version. So that's something I'll have to try and work out as we go through this. Ask some questions that throw AI. But are you finding that this is becoming a bigger risk for accounting firms? And as I guess structures and software utilization is changing, that what traditionally was a good setup for cybersecurity has now evolved, and you have the risk areas are changing. Is that something we're finding?
Yeah, I mean the risks are evolving over time. I think the days when hackers would go directly into systems are largely gone. Mostly these days, they use soft attacks, so they'll try and get in by trying to persuade an individual to give away their password or a multi-factor code. There are still opportunities around things like patching if you've got your own servers. We avoid that by using cloud ones. So there are things you can do, but generally speaking, most of the attack surface is email. And I have been known to suggest to accounting firms to ask the question, do you actually need to give all your staff email these days? Because if you've got Teams and Zoom, actually, do you need it for internal communication? Because the fewer email accounts you've got, the less your attack surface.
And that is a very good point. And there's lots of modern systems now where, threats management systems where it kind of drags you away from your email directly into a central communication channel. And then, as you say, you're only using email to communicate externally, mitigating some risk. I mean, it does baffle me that people give away voluntarily their multi-factor authentication code. That, I guess, is an education thing more than a security issue. So is it that rather than, I guess, bolstering security, educating your team is more critical now?
It's a key thing. I mean, we run routine awareness training for all of our team, and that's something people need to be doing. But at the end of the day, it's making it real. I mean, the trouble is with a lot of these things, they're sort of e-learning courses. People do it and they go through the ropes, but they don't see how real it is. And then suddenly they're busy. Somebody rings them up and goes, "You're having trouble logging in," and before you know it, you've got a problem. So really, it's about making it in the live environment and making sure that you've done everything you can to mitigate it. But I think ultimately you just have to accept you are going to get hacked. So a lot of the thinking is, okay, if we get hacked, how do we minimize the impact so it's not reportable?
Yeah.
And so is limited as much as you can.
And is that siloing data to some extent? So if you are hacked, it only gets to a certain point. They can't get to everything. Is that one way?
Yeah, that's an element of it. On emails, for example, we do have emails, but we only use them for scheduling meetings. So we basically, if somebody sends me client data by email, they'll get a nasty email back saying, "Don't do it," because we have systems to manage the flow of client data backwards and forwards, and email isn't part of it. But that means, if we did have an email hack, then actually we're only exposed to meeting schedule data, not anything that's actually important.
So what would you advise then accountants do to keep their data safe?
If you talk to the insurers, the one thing they will say that you must have is backups that cannot be deleted or overwritten. So some sort of air gap, so split apart from the main systems by actually not being connected, or something that literally can't be overwritten. And basically, if the scenario you mentioned at the beginning, if you've got that air gap backup, then no matter if you get hacked, you will be able to recover. If you have that and the hackers manage to get to the backup and encrypt the backup as well, then you're out of business. So if there's one thing you can do to make sure you're safe, it's make sure you've got separate backups.
And do it regularly. Don't, it daily it's great. But make sure you're doing it regularly. The other bit I find is that, delete your old backups, because I've worked in firms where they've had, decades worth of backup data that they've never got rid of, which now becomes a different issue. That becomes more of a GDPR issue, because you've still got information on customers you probably should have, or clients or employees you probably should have got rid of. So back it up, have the air gap, but also make sure you've got a deletion policy in place for that as well, actually.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, ultimately, there's an interesting debate as to how much data should you hold, and we quite often have it around inboxes. Should I delete everything from my inbox immediately, which means it can't be hacked, or should I store it so we've got an audit trail if anything comes up that we might have a problem with? And even when you look at the legals, there's an argument that says if you've deleted it, you're safer. So interesting debate there, and I'm not quite sure what the answer is. I haven't come to a conclusion yet, but certainly you don't want to be holding any more than you legally need to be, particularly if you've got an audit trail requirement, as you would for, let's say, the ICAEW.
Yeah, there's definitely a balancing act. Look, thanks, Ian, for coming on. I think hopefully this has been very informative, especially on a security side, which become more and more of a risk for accountancy firms. And hopefully they've got some little nuggets they can take away with them.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
that wraps up another episode of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to Advancetrack this time. Don't forget that you'll be able to catch us always every week on your podcast player of choice, along with our new newsletter and the live streams that go out every week. So if you need more information, grab the website, find more details, and you can get everything that you need from us whenever you want.